one of my teammates, Melanie Brandt, who's going to be talking about let's get cooking tips for managing arthritis, which I'm super excited about because I definitely like cooking and know the impact that food can have on our bodies and minds, everything. But before we let Melanie get into that, I'm going to introduce her real quick. So Melanie is our newest health educator with Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services, as she just started in June of 2021. While being a stay-at-home mom for her 3 boys, she decided to complete a bucket list item, which was to complete her bachelor's degree. This goal was finally completed in December 2020 when she graduated from Utah Valley University with her degree in Public and Community Health, cum laude. As she went through the interview process to become a health educator with Salt Lake County, she couldn't believe that she could possibly be a candidate for her dream job. Once she was offered the job, she has been on cloud nine, feeling so honored to be able to work with the older adults of Salt Lake County. Melanie has always had a passion for working with older adults, and this started when she was a caregiver for an older lady in her neighborhood that was homebound because of her rheumatoid arthritis. This was where she realized that working with older adults is what she wanted to do with her life, or do in her life. Being a health educator has been a dream come true for her, and she keeps pinching herself to make sure it is still real. And next time I see you, Melanie, I'm going to pinch you because it is real. And we're so excited to have you on the team and super excited to have you present today. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Paige. All right. So, like Paige says, I am the newest health educator. So I just want to put a preface out there. I am not like know everything about arthritis. I have parents and grandparents who have arthritis, so I'm a little bit familiar. But everything that I'm about to share with you today, I just did research to find more about it because I know that this is something that as we get older, we all struggle with. So I'm just going to talk about tips for managing arthritis pain when we're cooking, especially with the holidays coming up. So, pain from arthritis can limit participation in our daily activities, especially with cooking. And most of us can begin to get arthritis in our hands, which of course we use for cooking all the time. So, let's see. Okay, sorry. So, I came up with 5 different areas of ways to improve hand function and decrease pain that doesn't involve taking medication, which if we can do anything without increasing medication, I think that's definitely the better way to go. So the 5 that we're going to talk about today is protecting your joints, using adaptive equipment, changing how we cook, wearing a splint, and then Paige's favorite, building strength through exercises. So she'll be all on board with that for sure because she is our exercise guru. So let's go ahead and get started. Arthritis is a reality for older adults. A recent study published in Arthritis and Rheumatology showed that 91 million United States adults have arthritis who are 65 and older. 56% of those were men and 69% were women. So arthritis pain can have a significant impact on many areas of our health and well-being, especially when it affects our hands. The loss of control in our hands can lead to less participation in activities that are important to us. Managing arthritis pain is so important in helping to continue performing these activities. So, like I said, I've come up with 5 different tips to help manage pain from arthritis, and hopefully this will improve your ability to continue cooking your favorite dishes. So let's go ahead. Our tip number 1 is to protect our joints. So sometimes our normal way of doing things can increase stress on our joints, which I'm sure all of us, if we haven't experienced, we're going to experience that. Stress on our joints increase pain, stiffness, and could even worsen our condition. Due to this, we need to practice protecting our joints when we are using our hands. Joint protection is changing how we complete activities to reduce the stress on painful joints. let's look at some do's and don'ts when preparing food. All right, so the first, we're just going to go through some of these. So some of the do's for protecting our joints is to use larger handles for a more comfortable grip or to add foam tubing. When I was looking online, there are so many options of different things that are really not expensive, but that can really help us so that we have um, more capability to move those pans where they need to go. So I was happily surprised at how many options were out there. Another thing that we can do is to use our bigger joints. Instead of always relying directly on our hands, we can use more of our wrist, our elbow, and our shoulders. And that goes back to strength training to build those other muscles so that they're more useful to us. Using the palms of our hand instead of just our fingers when we open the lids. So that's another area that we need to practice and get better at using more of our palm. Use tools such as scissors to open packages versus just those thumbs. And then anytime possible, use two hands instead of one, because it really is going to, instead of using all of that strength in one hand, share the load, use both of them. So some of the don'ts, we need to try to not grip forcefully or pinch. And sometimes that's hard because I think oftentimes that's our tendency. But same thing, if we do strength training in our fingers and really just get used to not gripping so tight, that will help. Same thing with repeatedly gripping and pinching. That also is not good on our joints. And then trying to keep the position of your hand in one place. We need to be moving it around. And same thing, it takes practice, and you figure out there's different ways that you can do that. All right, so we're going to move on to our second tip, which is to use adaptive equipment. So with cooking, obviously, we do a lot of chopping, cutting, stirring, opening those jars, handling cookware, lifting objects, sometimes heavy, and standing to prepare and cook meals. So all of these are examples of what types of things we do when we cook. So this can be very discouraging, of course, when our joints are stiff, swollen, and painful. So we can use tools or utensils with the following features. So they have longer handles to increase leverage. They also have no slip handles with increased diameter. So that's the same thing. It kind of gives us more to hold on to. Handles which allow you to keep your arm in neutral, which is when your thumb up position is neutral. And then tools or equipment that does the work for you. And we're going to be talking more about those. So the following tools may help make cooking easier, less painful, and may significantly improve your enjoyment when preparing meals. So these are just a few, and we're going to talk a little bit later. You don't have to go out and buy all new equipment. These are just suggestions of maybe something you might want to plan ahead, maybe save, or you can always find things on sale or even used. But these are three kitchen gadgets that arthritis specialists have really said are great investments. So the first one is a food processor. I remember when my mom got her first Cuisinart, it was amazing. Every Thanksgiving and Christmas we do this. It's one of my favorite dishes, but it has cranberries and apples and there's one other thing and I forgot. But anyway, she'd always have to chop it all up. Well, she got a food processor and now she just dumps them in and it just cuts everything up itself. It has saved her time and also all of that wear and tear on her hands. The second thing is a blender. A lot of things that we have, we can actually blend them up instead of sitting around and stirring. Of course, we have the mixers, but a blender is another way to get it a little bit finer. And then the third one is an electric mixer. And those are really inexpensive and kind of a nice thing to have around. So those are kind of the top three kitchen gadgets that, like I said, arthritis specialists have recommended that really does help with making the wear and tear on our hands a little bit less with cooking. So some other ideas for tools for cutting or peeling food, and I was amazed at how many different items there are out there that are specific for arthritis use. So you probably already know all this, but this was all new to me. So they have what are called the rocker knives, and this is this one right here. And all it is you just move it back and forth. So instead of it being the up and down, it's a it's a rolling mechanism. You just want to make sure that it's sharp, but it does a fantastic job. A mandolin. This is another form of where you can grate and peel food, and it's a little bit bigger, so it allows you to use more of your arm strength instead of just your hands. They also have these great easy grip upright knives where it has, whoops, sorry, I went forward. It has a heavier rubberized part that you can hold on to, and then the knife comes out the direction. So it's just another easier way, so you're not using those swollen joints as much. My mom uses a pizza cutter all the time for all sorts of things. Great for sandwiches. We of course use it for quesadillas and just a lot of different good ideas. Then this also is the rolling knife. So another thing, it's got a big grip, so you can use more than you can use your whole hand and even your palm, and it goes back and forth, which is an easier way to chop things up instead of just the up and down. Let's see. Then there's also just a lot of options for that. Once again, those large rubbery handles on peelers and scrubbers. And then another option is a press top chopper. I have a Pampered Chef one, which is awesome. And you just hit it up on the top, and then the little blades just cut everything on the bottom. So another good one instead of having to manually chop everything up. And then these on the bottom are called palm peelers. Same thing, you're using more of our hands instead of just our fingers to grate and peel some of our vegetables. So just some good ideas of different things that are available out there. So the next area is tools for opening jars and cans. And I know this is definitely an area with arthritis. It's just so cumbersome to try and open up jars. So there's a few options that they've got out there. The first one is they have flat rubber, what do they call it? Grips, sorry. And so it just helps you give a little bit more leverage for opening up those jars. But the ones that the arthritis specialists really recommend are the electric jar or can openers. And I was surprised they're not that expensive. And I think you would definitely get your use out of them. But they also have them for cans as well. So I thought, oh, those are kind of great options. And then the other one that doesn't really fall with jars, but I just put it in there, was bowls with the silicone bottoms so that they're not moving all around on our countertops. So those were just, I thought, some great ideas of things that are out there that, if we can plan ahead and maybe save, put aside some money to get those, I think in the long run, it definitely would be worth it. All right. So our tip number 3 is changing how we cook. And I know sometimes this is a tough one because I know I am a creature of habit, so I like to do things the same way that I've always done them. But what we have found is we really need to preserve our energy and strength so that we can allow to complete the entire task before the pain and fatigue really force us to stop early. So oftentimes that requires us to change things a little bit. So I've come up with 4 helpful areas of how we could maybe possibly change how we cook. So the first one is to optimize your kitchen workspace. So, and this is the area that I thought, oh, this is something I can even do, is to plan your kitchen with a place to sit while working. So as you can see in this picture, there's a bar stool to sit on. And so the idea is to organize your work spot so that you have everything that you use most frequently close by. So you're not having to up and down reach for things. They also recommend that it be near a sink. So because if you're doing a lot of things with washing fruits and vegetables or needing to wash your hands, you're close by. and the third thing is to place commonly used items on countertops or lower shelves so that it reduces the need to lift and lower, which is also wear and tear on all of our joints. And then I thought this one was kind of interesting. They suggested using a portable kitchen timer when baking to prevent having to unnecessarily keep walking back and forth into the kitchen to test to see if the food is done. And they have all sorts of cool ones where it has a little clip and you can just clip it on your apron if you're an apron wearer, or, I'm sure there's all sorts of other gadgets out there that can help with that. So just some ideas of how to maybe rearrange your kitchen so that it works better for you. The second area is to help reduce physical stressors. I don't know about you, but when it comes to holiday time, my stresses go way up. And so I love to cook, but at the same time, it's frustrating. So anything we can do to lessen those stressors is going to be beneficial for everyone. So a couple things that suggested is to take frequent breaks before your hands become too tired. So kind of you know your body best. Maybe you take 20 minutes and you do the chopping of the vegetables for a particular recipe, but then you take a break. Maybe you go watch TV, or as Paige would like us to do, get some exercises in, so that we're in prime condition. And the next thing is to plan ahead to decrease the need for repetitive tasks. So if you have a lot of items that need to be, like fruits and vegetables that need to be washed, do them all at the same time. Instead of keep going back to the fridge to get new things, try to plan ahead so that you're doing everything at the same time instead of possibly wasting your time, and also just making more steps or using your hands more than you really need to. This sometimes can be difficult, but I love the idea that they give about avoid heavy lifting. So they suggested using a slotted spoon to drain, for example, pasta, instead of carrying that full pot back to the sink to drain in the colander. I've also seen a lot of homes that now have that pot filler, which is awesome if you are able to, have a home that has that, because you can just put that big pot on the stove and then just fill it from there. But there are lots of other ways to do that. Then another idea is to place the mixing bowl in the sink for a better height with stirring. Instead of being lower and having to stir this way, you're actually higher up and you're stirring down. So once again, you're using more of your upper body strength instead of just those joints. So once again, just some ideas. Let's see. So the third one is to plan ahead with food prep. I think the thing that I learned the most when I researched this out is planning ahead is the biggest thing in all areas. So some of the things that they suggested for planning ahead with our food prep is to buy pre-cut food or even microwavable dinners. I have loved being able to buy rice that's already in a container or a bag, and I just shove it into the microwave and cook it. How easy. No one even knows that I didn't, get a pot and boil it and all of that. They have no idea. It tastes exactly the same. Same thing with microwavable to steam your vegetables. Another great way, so that you're not over a boiling pot having to stir. So anyways, lots of great ideas to kind of help with that food prep. Freeze your meat until it's partially frozen before you start slicing or cubing. My husband was a meat cutter many years ago, and this was something that he taught me. And it's amazing how it is. It really makes it a little bit easier because it's not frozen, but it holds its shape a little bit better, and it's easier to cut through. Cook extra food and freeze when you don't need for future use. This is one thing that my mom has done. Like I said, we do this cranberry salad, and she has gotten into the habit of doing a double batch when she does it for Thanksgiving, because then she freezes it for Thanksgiving, or for Christmas, sorry. So she's got 2 for 1 in the same amount of time as what it would take to do them 2 different times. When cutting sticks of food, for example, carrots and celery, cut each stalk 3 to 4 times lengthwise before you start cutting it into shorter sticks. Sometimes that can help with alleviating so much use on our joints. Scald fruit in hot water for 1 minute for easy peeling. I had never heard of that, so I'm excited to try that one to see if it really works. But it makes sense. And then same thing with potatoes. Boil the potatoes with the skins on and then cool under cold water, and it makes it for much easier peeling of potatoes. And then the last one, this shows that it's a little bit dated, but empty ice cube trays into plastic bags. So I'm sure there are many of us that still have the ice cube trays, but you know what? Get a grandkid or one of your I can't even talk, sons or daughters. That's their job. They can be in charge of keeping track of the ice so that you're not having to crank that back and forth. So anyways, just some ideas. And then the last area is to incorporate smart cooking techniques. So I know that a lot of us have like the big cast iron pans are like our favorite pans. They work the best. But something to consider is looking into using lightweight pans because it really is helpful for not stressing out our joints as much. Another great idea is to place a wet soapy sponge over dried splatters on the countertop because then it makes it for easier cleanup later on instead of having to scrub for when, you know, we've made spaghetti and it's all over the place or, you know, all of those different dishes that make a huge mess. We talked a little bit about this before. I think I mentioned it, maybe I didn't, to use smaller pans or containers to fill the bigger pans with water. So instead of carrying this huge pan from the sink to the stove, use smaller ones so that it's not as difficult on our hands. Line baking pans with parchment paper to prevent sticking for easier cleanup. And then this is one that I just have gotten into a few years ago, but use one-pot cooking, such as a crock pot or an Instapot. I never thought I would be into Instapots, but they are a lifesaver for a lot of things, especially with potatoes. Potatoes are awesome in Instapots. And then another thing that I thought was interesting is to slide pots or bowls across the counter on a hot pad instead of picking them up and carrying them. So that's just another kind of idea that we could use. All right. Also, if you have any suggestions or anything that you want to jump in, please go right ahead and unmute yourself or put it in the chat because you probably know more than I do. But this is just what I have found. So back to our tips. We're on tip number 4, which is to wear a splint. So thumb splints can help maintain good joint position to decrease pain. So there is good evidence that thumb splints help maintain good joint position to decrease hand pain, improve hand function, and it may even improve your grip strength. So there are many over-the-counter options available. I went searching and there's tons of different ones that you can choose from, or you can also go to your local healthcare provider. They actually do custom fitting splints if you wanted to go that route. But when you're shopping for a splint, there are 2 things that you really want to look for. You want to look for words such as CMC type of splint or a thumb spica splint. Those are the 2 best splint types for arthritic hands. So a couple things to remember for a good fit. You want it to be snug, but not tight. So you don't want it loose enough to just completely slide off your hand. That's not going to do you any good. So you want it to be snug. You want to include the base of the thumb only, or the base of the thumb and the middle joint. So you should be able to bend the tip of your thumb. So if that is not the case, that's not the right splint for you. And then the splint just helps allow you to grasp and pinch objects with less pain. So that's the whole purpose of the splint. All right. So we are to our tip number 5, which is about exercise and lifestyle management. So as we know, everyday habits like getting physical activity, eating nutrient-dense foods, and using tools for pain relief can also help improve symptoms and make cooking easier. So some of the suggestions that the Arthritis Foundation gave for movement to increase flexibility, strength, endurance, and balance are yoga, Tai Chi, swimming, and walking. So this is my way of also putting in a plug for some of the programs that we offer, because we do have a Tai Chi class that Salt Lake County offers. We also have AFEP, which is an arthritis foundation exercise program that is great for exercising our joints and gaining that strength and endurance. And then for our walking, we also have our Walk with Ease program, which is a great walking program that also focuses on those with arthritis. So once again, it's so important that we continue to exercise and get physical activity because it does help in all areas of arthritis. Some ideas for heat, for pain relief. A couple ones are the paraffin baths. Those are helpful for relieving swollen and painful joints. Heated gloves. I was shocked at how many different heated gloves options there were out there. Moist heat packs around your hands are a good thing to help with that soreness and those flare-ups. And then also just warm water soaks are great for when maybe you've overdone it with your hands and you need a break. All right, so I probably have talked way too much and I'm sorry. Let's see, how are we on time? Oh, we're good on time. Okay, so whoops, I did it again, sorry. Another thing that I found were these great 12 kitchen hacks that everyone with an arthritis needs to know about. So some of these kind of repeat what we've talked about, but it just goes into a little bit more detail. So I just would like to run through those just to kind of cover all of our bases with different ways that we can help alleviate some of our pain when we're cooking. So the first one is to use tools for chopping and stirring. And I know we talked about this. With cooking, the actions that force you to exert a lot of pressure on your joints and your hands and your wrists can be painful. And that is all has to do with chopping, cutting, and stirring are possibly the hardest kitchen tasks for those with arthritis. So some of the best gadgets that arthritis specialists talk about is the mandolin, which is that the shredder and the peeler, kind of the longer one, is a great one. Blenders are fantastic for getting things mixed up so you don't have to do all the stirring. And then food processor. If you can get a food processor, some of them even come with attachments, but those have been lifesavers for those with arthritis. Let's see. And then the other top gadget is the rocking knife. Everyone just raves about how much easier that is. And they prefer the ones with the 2 handles because it really allows, you could actually use both hands to do it. So it's not just one hand or the other. And you just want to make sure it's sharp so that it's effective with cutting, because you don't want to go through all that work and then it not even work. So then the second kitchen hack is to not let jars get you down. So I think jars can be a pain for anyone. There's so many times where I have, like the first time that I'll open green olives, I can never get the jar open. So I'm always asking my husband to open them. So I'm totally excited to look into some of those electric because it would just be easier. But they said that is the number one thing to think about, is to going electric with those jar openers. Another idea was an inexpensive ring on your thumb. So especially for the cans that are you don't have to open all the way around. It has that ring that you flip up. They suggest that you get just a cheap, inexpensive ring. You put it on your thumb and you're able to pull that up and it makes it easier to open. So I had never heard of that, but I thought that was kind of ingenious for something inexpensive. The third hack is to get a grip. So for utensils, spatulas, peelers, and basically anything you have to hold, use products with large, rubbery, grippy handles. And there are two products that the arthritis, on the Arthritis Foundation website, they really like. It's the OXO Group Grips brand, and then also the Good Grips product. They're very well designed, and it was made for arthritis, those with arthritis. Let's see. So the fourth one is to find new uses for old gadgets. So like I said before, cooking with arthritis doesn't necessarily mean you need to go out and buy all new kitchen items. You can use gadgets that you already have. You just need to look around your kitchen and see if there's another purpose that they can be used for. So one that was brought up, they have a hard-boiled egg cutter. That is great for cutting mushrooms. It's great for cutting strawberries. Trying to think, kiwi. I always cut kiwi with it. So kind of thinking outside the box and coming up with, oh, this could be something that I could implement with something that I already have. Apple cores are also can be great for cutting vegetables as well. Kitchen shears or scissors are useful for not only opening bags, but they're also great for cutting meat and some vegetables as well. We talked a little bit about pizza cutters, but they are a great use for especially sandwiches and flatter foods. Corn cob holders. So if we're not eating corn, we can use that for putting it into our food when we're cutting. It makes it a little bit easier to handle so it's not moving around all over. And then there could be other gadgets out there. Take a look in your cupboards and see if you can think of something creative to find a new use for. So the fifth hack is to not stand for long stretches. Sitting on a chair to do all the chopping and prep work is probably a great way to go because standing for that long hurts your feet, your ankles, and your back through the whole process. Maybe working at your kitchen table is an option, or if you have stools at a counter, that could be something that you could implement to sit while you're doing that. If you do need to stand, they have great kitchen mats. They're called anti-fatigue. And then they also have the no trip mats, can take a lot of the stress off your legs and feet. All right, so the sixth hack that they came up with is to lighten your load. So I mentioned this before, but those heavy pans, you really should consider getting lighter weight pots and pans. It really is going to be better for you overall. And this also goes for plates. Switching to a lightweight Corelle or even a melamine are good ways. Prep bowls and cookware, I showed you a picture of the one with the silicone on the bottom, but they're a plastic, which are great because they don't weigh as much. And then also storage containers. Use plastic instead of glass. It's lightweight and it's just a little bit easier. And then just a reminder, you want to be extra careful with those large pots of waters. Figure out a way that you can get that water into those big pots without having to carry it all over. And another idea is when you dump the pot, instead of dumping the pot into the colander, scoop it out with a slotted spoon or even a spaghetti server. So it takes a little bit longer, but in the long run, you're using less wear and tear on your joints. So the seventh hack is to invest in a slow or instant cooker. So one pot meals are the way to go to simplify your prep and cleanup. Slow cookers and the new hot gadget Instant Pots make it easy to throw the ingredients in and forget about them until they're ready. And then also not to overlook your microwave. There are a lot of options for steaming vegetables or rice, like I mentioned before. These are items that you can just put in the microwave and heat rather than having to sit and wait for them to boil. And no one's going to know the difference if you cooked them in a microwave or if you sat over a hot boiling stove and stirred it the whole time. So the 8th hack is to do some reorganizing. So in addition to keeping your microwave and other countertop gadgets like your food processor and slow cooker easily accessible, rethink things in your kitchen. You don't want to strain yourself with reaching or bending for things that you use all the time. Of course, try to store your heavier, less used items in the lower cabinets, and then put your lighter items up top where you can reach them easily and get them down when it's necessary. Lazy Susans are great, especially for spices. So you're not having to try and, make your way through a crowded cupboard. They're just great because you can just spin them around and find what it is that you need. So the number 9 hack is to get help from the grocery store. I think one good thing about the pandemic is that grocery shopping doesn't have to be as much a pain as it used to be. Most grocery stores have home delivery or even the pickup services, and most of them don't even cost if you spend a certain amount. But that really takes that task of having to stroll up and down the aisles to find those items for your shopping. You can just do it online, put it in a cart, drive your car up, and they put it in your car. So it's kind of just a way to hopefully make it so it's not as tiring to do that shopping for cooking. Also take advantage of any assistance in the store. So once again, shop for pre-cut vegetables in both frozen and fresh sections. You can also ask the butcher to cut up meat and debone fish for you. Or you can buy pre-cooked foods like a roast chicken and then doctor it up. Once again, no one's going to know. It's going to taste the same. You can make it work. Don't be afraid of the odd bit of prepackaging or processed stuff like preparing spaghetti sauce or frozen meatballs. They can be great starters to a meal that then you add your own touches to. The 10th hack is a good manager knows what tasks to take to hand off to others. So we need to delegate. If you find something that's really painful, ask your partner or your kids to help it. There's no need for you to continue doing that if someone else is more than capable. Like chopping, if it's just too much, get someone else to do it. I'm sure they would love to help out. Even young kids or grandkids can fetch ingredients and load the dishwasher. Why not start them out young with learning how to cook? And in addition, if you have friends over, put them to work. Or maybe you make a potluck where everyone brings a dish instead of you being the one that cooks everything. So just some ideas to think about. The 11th hack is to simplify cleanup. So I love this because they said one word, dishwasher. Use it for everything you can. You also can prepare ahead of time for less mess by placing liners in your slow cooker or aluminum foil in your roasting pans or even parchment paper on your cookie sheets. So that's less washing that you have to do after. And then another one, my mom actually taught me this as a kid, but it's called do the washing up in stages. So instead of letting everything pile up, do it piece by piece. So once you're done cutting up the vegetables or the fruit or done using the food processor, take the time to clean up the counter, throw the food processor in the dishwasher, or have a sink of soapy water where you can just put things instead of having this huge mess at the end. And then you can just wash it and then take a little rest. So the last hack is to double up. And so you can still make those elaborate meals. You just have to be smart about it. So making a double batch of something and freezing the other half is a great way to kind of spread all of your work a little bit longer. Prepping meals ahead of time is a great thing so that if you do have bad days, your meals are that much easier to go to the table. And then another advice that they give is to be careful on your cooking days. Pace yourself because in your good times, if you overdo it, it's just going to cause it to be problems later on. So let's see, was there anything? Yeah, just you know your body. Don't get overwhelmed and too tired before you finish. See if there's a way that you can plan ahead and kind of spread that out. So with a little advanced preparation, cooking could remain an enjoyable or at least tolerable for those that don't love to cook activity. So the last thing that I just wanted to share is to remember that don't let arthritis pain keep you from cooking from anything or anything else that you love to do. And I feel that this famous phrase applies in that where there is a will, there is a way. And hopefully I've been able to give you some ideas of areas that if you have a will to continue cooking a certain way, there's obviously lots of options out there to help make it a little bit easier. So that is everything that I have. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments that anyone has.
If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute and talk directly to Melanie.
But know that I'm not an expert, so. And I don't know if there's any other hacks that any of you have been able to come up with that would be helpful to share with us as well. All right, so you want slide. Did you say slide or tip 1? Was that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
slide for slife for
Slife.
tip 1, actually.
I can't even talk. Let me pull that one up. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh, not tip 2. Sorry. There we go. So it's protect your joints.
What's the next slide after that? Is that for tip 2, or does that go?
No,
into,
that's the
go.
joint protection. Is that the one?
Okay.
Yeah, just some do's and don'ts.
Melanie, that was really interesting. I have to say, I was that wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be, and it was even better because I think there's a lot of talk about, foods that you can eat to help with inflammation, blah, blah, blah. People don't want to hear about that. But ways to actually facilitate cooking, there are many that you brought up that I am actually going to consider myself, simply because even if you don't have arthritis and you're cooking a lot and chopping a lot, my hand, like if I'm chopping a butternut squash, I have a hard time. I'm also shorter, and so getting leverage. So having the right tools, I think, really helps for efficiency of movement, and really good tips there, and timely, given that many of us are coming into a cooking season in the next month or two. So thank you for that. That was very, very good. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paige. It was good. I learned so much myself, and same thing. I can utilize. I don't have arthritis right now, but just good general tips for just taking better care of my joints. So
absolutely. All right. Well, and if somebody has a question or comment or suggestion, you can put it in the chat or interrupt me by unmuting. Otherwise, next week, our webinar, Tuesdays at 2, will be how to cope with holiday stress. And our presenter is Chris Forsdick from the USU Extension. Learn tips and tricks to make your holidays fun, relaxing, and stress-free. And I'm sure all Chris is going to talk about is how exercise is the answer. So, join us for that. I'm sure that Chris will have more information than just that. Please join us next Tuesday, same link for that presentation. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here today. See you later. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.